Greetings, everybody. Well, good evening. It's your boy Mark, and I'm back here again to speak a little bit about something that I had some thoughts about. I watched a video today where somebody said that we are now in an era where you can't just take shots at people because that person will have an opportunity to fire those shots right back at you. So that's why I feel that this whole Stephen A. Smith business that's going on with Jason Whitlock is an interesting one. Stephen A. Smith was the first person who was called out for being a bully in such a way. Um, Basically, he made a bunch of jokes about Kwame Brown, which was the number one draft pick for the Washington Wizards, early 2000s. I want to say 2001, I think, was his draft season. And a lot of people called Kwame Brown a bust, but his was probably the most notable. He was like, this guy's a waste of space on the basketball court. He's not even averaging 10 rebounds. He has small hands. He said all this stuff about Kwame Brown. And back in those days when he made those comments, you could say anything about anyone if you are on one of the bigger platforms. If a Kwame Brown or somebody wants to respond to those comments from the people on the bigger platforms, nobody would hear it, because it wasn't like now where you could just jump on YouTube, you could jump on TikTok, you could jump on Instagram and just respond yourself, and somebody is going to pick it up and it's going to pick up steam, and then the public gets to decide, okay, this is your side and this is my side, this is the side that I think resonates the most with me, but you have a chance to defend yourself. So Kwame Brown went on a mission to get back at all of these guys who have trashed him over the years. And Stephen A. Smith was one of the bigger names that did so. So now we have Cat Williams, who comes out and talks about all these people who he feels have slandered him over the years. Steve Harvey, Ricky Smiley. You know the whole big list of names that Cat Williams came after recently. It was a huge thing. It has millions and millions of views, and it's been spoken about a lot at this point. So I give all that background information to say, now Stephen A. Smith comes out and says, hi Debbie, and says that he has been bullied by Jason Whitlock and he has to say something. So he got on this big rant and he was like, you're basically about to see and hear a Stephen A. Smith that you've never seen and heard before on air. He says, before I even get into this, I'm paraphrasing, by the way, this is not an exact quote, but he said, before I get into this, I have to let you know I apologize in advance to my pastor. He named his pastor, and he said, I apologize in advance to my pastor for what I'm about to say. He said, I apologize to my family, my sister, this and this and this person that I spoke to beforehand, and they told me they don't want me to do it. I apologize to all of those people because I have to do it. He says, I spoke to ESPN and I let them know what I was about to do on my podcast, because he said, even though I don't have to, because it's my own podcast, out of respect for my bosses, I let them know what I'm about to do on this podcast before I do it. Okay, so he's doing all his checks and balances. I'm not going to dive too deeply into his commentary about Jason Whitlock. You can go look up the video for yourself, see what he had to say for yourself. But basically, he was just trying to say the guy has been taking all these shots at him over the years, and he doesn't like it. And he thinks that guy is a waste of life, waste of space. He had a lot of choice words for him. the reason why I commented was not even because of that. The reason why I made this video was not even because of that. It's because he made a follow-up video today. And he went to his go-to thing that he always says. He says, I am a black man. He says, I'm a successful black man. He says, I am the face of ESPN. Right? He always, and then he starts listing his credentials. I'm on television 2 hours a day. I spend 4,500 hours of work on different syndicated shows that are on the ESPN network, blah, 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 listing out all this stuff. Stephen A. Smith has a right to say whatever he wants to say. I'm all for free speech and freedom of speech and people being able to give their side of the story or their version, whether it's right or wrong, just for them to be able to have the ability to do that. I'm fine with that. But when it comes to Stephen A. Smith, specifically, Stephen A. Smith was trying to make a point and say he loves being black. He loves the black community, and he does so much to help the black community. His definition of, the help that he gives the black community is telling them when they're wrong. So Stephen A. Smith has a long history of telling black athletes on his shows that they do not deserve the money that they are receiving for whatever reason. When it was talking about Kyrie Irving, it was like he doesn't deserve his contract because he's not willing to get the vaccine. When it came to certain athletes who were smoking weed or they were doing different things, he's like, you can't do those things and expect that contract. They should cut this person from this team, blah, 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 blah. And then he was all over the place with this. That's why I'm kind of all over the place with my commentary. He was saying that as a black man on the air like this, when certain things happen that are related to social justice, that have nothing to do with sports, which is what their network is known for, ESPN is a sports network, he said that everyone puts the responsibility on him to speak on those instances. Everybody is like, oh, you're kind of the token black man here, so what do you have to say? And if whatever he says is not representative of the general opinion of the black community, people are gonna come at him for that. And he's like, I should be celebrated here because I'm a black man who made it, and I'm trying to tell everybody else the formula on how to make it, because he said some people get in the positions that they get into and they don't want to tell you the way that they got there. And he said, I'm somebody who's always willing to educate and help people and tell them the way and show them the way. I'm going to say something. The black community has so much talent in it. It has people who do what he does, journalists, athletes, artists, doctors, lawyers. There's just as much talent in the black community as any other community. So the reason that I'm saying that is because I'm not discrediting the talent or the work ethic of a Stephen A. Smith. I know that he had to go to school. I know that he had to put in a number of hours. He had to do internships. He started off, covering a local sports team in Philadelphia, and then he worked his way up. He did everything that he had to do to get where he had to get. But he's not the only person who could do those things. To get in those types of positions that he's in right now, I'm trying to think of a politically correct way to say this. Well, you don't get put in those positions for nothing. They have to know that if We say jump, you say how high. They have to give, the person has to give, they give the person the illusion that they are in control, that they're able to say what they want, have the control to say what they want and do what they want. But really, there's Geppetto behind the scenes pulling the strings. You can't say this, you can't say that. You got to run this by us before you do this. You can't do this. You got to push this narrative. You got to talk about this. And a lot of people are not willing to do that. So his formula is not my formula. I would never get to the spot that Stephen A. Smith is in because I don't know, maybe you might call me a journalist. I don't really consider myself a journalist, but as media, let's just say as media, I know that there's things that I could tap into and ways that I could get myself further ahead much faster than what I'm doing. But I could never see myself in a position where I have a stance or a personal belief about something and somebody tells me you're not allowed to talk about that, or you're not allowed to have this stance, or I'm going to edit your narrative because I need you to say this. So I wouldn't say that Stephen A does more for the community than anyone else. And then the interesting thing too is that he's depending on empathy from this same community that he has spent all these years trashing for various reasons. And he's saying this guy, Jason Whitlock, is bullying me. And I haven't done anything wrong. I'm a good person. I'm a hard worker. And I'm a very successful black man. So black people should be celebrating me. We all have choices to make in life. We can choose to do the things that give us the most money, or we can choose to do the things that give us the most respect. So if you are choosing to sacrifice yourself and to sacrifice the reality of who you are and to sacrifice your opinion in order to have the backing and the funding to be able to say, I am the face of ESPN. I make the highest salary out of any of these journalists on ESPN, blah, blah, blah. That's what comes with that. You're allowed to choose the path that makes the most sense for you, but you can't have it both ways. And we see so many people trying to do this best of both worlds type of thing, where they want to have the backing and the money and the corporate benefits that they get from working for these big corporations and having high positions in those corporations, but they also want the love. In my opinion, Stephen A. Smith always wants sympathy. He wants sympathy from the same community that he's always bringing down. He's always bringing them down. And I know he's saying, oh, these are just the topics on my plate, and I just give my opinion. I give my honest opinion about what's going on. Well, these people love seeing a black man trash another black man. I know that these topics have to be addressed, and I know that it's a job. I know that things get put on your plate at your job. You might not always want to talk about this or that, but it's the producers are like, this is a topic that you have to present. But in terms of your stances on those topics, you do have a choice. Hi, Tasha. You do have a choice. You always have a choice. I've heard people tell me over the years, oh, I had to do this or I had to say this. I had no choice. I'm not somebody who believes that we have no choice, because not everybody is a person of faith. I believe in God, and God gave me choices. God gives me choices. I can do whatever I want. You know, it's not like all of my choices are going to be the right choices, and there will be consequences to certain choices I can make. But I can go out there and do whatever I want. So, in his case, they could say, we want an angry black man to rant about this professional athlete that did XYZ in their personal life that goes against the conduct standards of that league that they're in. The way that he talks about people, the way that he talks about black athletes in particular, rubs me the wrong way. And the reason why is because it's always like, oh, when I come to work, I know that I have to show up and I have to do this and I have to be a professional and you have to be a professional. Otherwise, you don't deserve that contract. He'll talk about an athlete that is out of shape and he's like, this is disgusting. This is egregious. This man does not deserve to make these millions. Step out of the way and let somebody else who has a harder work ethic and does better than you and eats right, let that person get that contract to be able to feed their family. But here's the reality. No matter what your job is, yes, it's a privilege to do a job that pays you millions of dollars. Absolutely. It absolutely is a privilege. But I don't care whether your job is the janitor or whether your job is to be the highest paid player in the National Basketball Association. Do you put your pants on one leg at a time? Yes? The answer is yes. So therefore, they're still a human being. Somebody could be out of shape for any number of reasons. They could be going through a depression. They could be having some kind of family issues. They could be dealing with loss. Sometimes you could just have a low level of motivation. It happens. It happens to everybody. It happens to everybody. So for that to be the first thing to go to, oh, this person is lazy, this person is this person doesn't deserve the money. Come on, man. That's not representative of being happy for black people succeeding. You can call somebody out in a way that is not a detriment to their income, because being that face and being that person who's listened to by millions of viewers every day, when you say things like that, when you start trashing these people, it's going to go all around the world, especially in this era. It's not just TV anymore. It's going to make its way to TikTok, and it's going to make its way to Instagram, and it's going to make its way to YouTube, and it's going to be here, there, and everywhere. And now, when that person is trying to renegotiate their next contract, they're like, oh, Stephen A. Smith heard from sources that such and such is toxic in the locker room. They're a cancer to the team. They're lazy. They have no motivation, blah, 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 blah. It's not uplifting to me. He has made a career of being the token black man who they can put in that spot, and he will always do the story to trash another black man. That's it, and that's all. And I think that lots of people could be Stephen A. Smith, but a lot of people were not willing to do the things Stephen A. Smith has been willing to do over the years to be Stephen A. Smith. But like I said, he has a right to choose the career path that he chose. He's very successful at it. He's very highly paid. He's been doing this for a number of years. He can do it for as long as he wants. But you can't demand the love of a community that you have built your career off of really tearing them down. And that's really all that I have to say about that. So let me know in the comments, agree, disagree, and please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to get notified of when I drop some more great content. Thank y'all.